It's summertime, Zach,
Yes, Bruce, it's summertime.
and it reminded me of my Uncle Clarence, who was a dairy farmer in western Pennsylvania. And my grandfather died in 1945, and at age 16, he took over the farm that had been farmed by my grandfather, and there were three young ones, including my mom, and he was a really hard-working guy. And he decided that they wanted to have a vegetable garden. Now, do you know the word bottomland? Bottomland?
Bottomland?
Yeah, it's land that it's fertile, but it's near the river and has lots of rocks and shrubs and stuff like that. I mean, it's really rugged land, but if you can clear the land, it's great for a vegetable garden. So my uncle decided that's what he was going to do. And so cleared the brush and hauled away the stones. I mean, it was a lot of work, and it took him nearly the whole year. And the next year, he planted the vegetable garden, and he was really proud of it. So he invited the pastor of his Presbyterian church to come over and take a look at his garden. And the pastor was really impressed. He said, "I've never seen corn so beautiful." He said, "And the tomatoes, they look so fantastic. And I see the lemons." He said, This really must be God's work." My uncle said, "Well, if it is God's land, that's good, Pastor. But I can tell you he never would have been able to do it without my help."
Bruce brings up a good point. Bruce brings up a great point for today's offering. God is looking.
Is this working?
I think it's working, Bruce.
Good.
We're excited today. Matt Sargent is one of the members of our church, one of our elders, and he composes his own scores and soundtracks for movies. And it is a huge joy. He's going to be playing an original piece for us during our offering time. So I want to encourage you all to lend an ear as Matt shares with us during our offering time. And it's going to be a real treat for us as we give joyfully to the Lord.
Are the words going to be up on the screen?
No words on the
No,
screen.
okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, that's okay. You wanted to think that I had something to say?
I'm always wondering if you've
Well,
something to say.
I was thinking about this. This is not really a biblical teaching, what I'm about to tell you, but it does relate to those folks that go to heaven.
People will go to heaven.
Yeah, and I don't know if you knew this, but there were three people who died and went to heaven at the same time. One was a Presbyterian pastor, and one of them was Mother Teresa, and there was a lawyer. Three of them there at the gates, and Peter walked in, and the first person who got the place to live in heaven was the lawyer. It was a magnificent mansion, terrazzo floors, a tile roof. It was just absolutely fantastic. And everyone was really thinking, that's pretty nice, living, there. And the next person down the road was Mother Teresa, and she was given a nice enough house. I mean, shingle roof and linoleum floors, but still, perhaps she was a woman of simplicity. Maybe that would be something that she would prefer. And the third person in this list was the Presbyterian pastor. The tin roof and the mud floor, dirt floor. Presbyterian minister said, I'm very grateful to be here in heaven, but, the lawyer got the big house and I got this little shack. Does that seem right? And Peter said, he said, we have a lot of Presbyterian pastors here in heaven. And we really have quite a few saints. We've never had a lawyer before.
It's funny when you know that Bruce is a lawyer, by the way. So. It's all just conversation, Yeah, right. I'm with you, though. I'm with you, though. Whoa. Hi, everybody. For those of you who are not aware, Bruce Gridley is one of our elders and is one of our key leaders here. You probably see his face more than many others. He has the bulletins and oftentimes a snappy comment to keep a little pep in your step.
Well, actually, Zach, the Super Bowl is upcoming. You knew that, right?
Bruce, I had heard.
Well, I was really thinking back to the time when I was in high school and wanted to be an athlete. And I knew I wasn't tall enough to be a basketball player. I wasn't 6 feet. I wasn't heavy enough to be a football player. In those days, I was under 160 pounds. So I thought, well, maybe I could become a referee. So they give you an eye test, and I had 20/20 vision. So they said that was too good to be referee. I couldn't have that kind of vision. So went to the archery coach and said I might want to be an archer. He said, do you want to play offense or defense?
Archery.
So I didn't decide to do that. Anyway, I think ultimately football is my favorite sport. You know, there are 11 guys playing offense and 11 guys playing defense and 65,000 people who can see the game better than any referee on the field. So that's why I like
it. Bruce, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, Zach. I was thinking about Valentine's Day. You got plans, do you?
We actually don't have any big plans yet, Bruce, but there will be plans at some point.
Well, I was thinking back to when it is that I really became conscious of the importance of Valentine's Day. I think I was a junior in high school, and my English literature teacher was Ms. Grimsley, who was Miss Indiana the year before she began teaching in high school. And I can tell you, as a 17-year-old boy, that was a very, very impressive credential, being Miss Indiana. So, she was the vision, you know, and I said, you know, I can make an impression on her. So I went down to the See's candy store and I got a box of chocolates, you know, the kind of the red chocolate box, and I put on the card, Ms. Grimsley, be mine.
Yeah.
Bruce. So I put it down, and at the end of the period, she called me up. And you can imagine the palpitations in my 17-year-old heart. Ms. Grimsley is going to talk to me about my Valentine's box. And she says, Bruce, thank you very much for the chocolates. It's going to be a B minus, not be mine. And she went and got married to somebody else the next year.
Oh. Almost. We're talking about courage, and courage is always a good thing to have in life. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm not running in 16, but I thought, why would I not want to do that? Well, I listened to Bill Clinton, who gave me advice about that. Bill Clinton said, being president is like being in the middle of a cemetery. There are lots of people who are underneath you, but none of them are listening. So I decided not to run for office.
Oh, what a loss. Okay, let's go ahead and pray for our offering.
You well know.
Well, you know, I do, and I think everyone's noticed the weather, right? I mean, it's really been a lot. And did you see the number of traffic accidents that were out there?
You know, Bruce, I did not.
It is amazing. In fact, the Channel 14 weatherwoman was involved in a very serious accident. You probably didn't see that either. No. Yeah, she had her arms broken, both left and right arm, and both her left and right legs broken. And that's a serious accident. They took her to the hospital. They put casts on both of her arms and both of her legs.
Channel 14, you said?
Channel 14, yeah.
Okay.
Now, she wasn't very good at predicting the weather,
Okay.
but they think she'll be better with the forecasts.
Do you have anything sad for that? Why not, Bruce? Why can't we do that all
We've
day?
got daylight savings time starting today.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
Daylight savings time. Now, I'm not a real big fan of daylight savings time.
Why is that, Bruce?
Well, it seems to me like this is something that the government imposes on us. And it, you know, the idea of saving saving. Only the government would tell you that if you take $1 from your one pocket and put it into your other pocket, you're saving. Only the government would think that. And as a wise Indian chief once said when responding to the explanation of daylight savings time, he said, "You mean if I cut the bottom of my blanket and attach to the top of my blanket, I'll have a longer blanket?" That's what the government wants you to believe.
We always learn something. Thank you, Bruce, very much. That we have, I'm so grateful for that. We love, absolutely.
And opening up the windows, I thought was a darn good idea.
Yeah.
Darn good idea.
Absolutely. That's Charity. Wherever she is, thank you, Charity.
Yeah, that's
a
a
great
really
call.
good idea. It sort of reminds me of something back where I grew up.
What's that, Bruce?
Well,
Bruce, where did you grow up? If those of us who don't know, where'd you grow up, Bruce?
I was raised in Illinois and educated in Wisconsin.
Before coming to USC.
Before coming to USC, exactly. And, that's a farm country, and a lot of people look for this kind of day to start, well, not this day, but some day like this to start with the plowing, tilling the soil.
Right.
So it reminds me of a fellow who had a son, an older fellow had a son, and the old fellow wasn't feeling well, and the son needed to take him to the hospital. So he didn't have a car. So the son took the neighbor's car and drove his father to the hospital. Well, that's grand theft auto, right? So he was arrested. The son was arrested and put in jail. Now, the father and son, they love each other a great deal, but the father can't get around because he's old and enfeebled, doesn't have a car, so they write letters back and forth. And we all know, right, that letters in jail are being read by, the jailers. They know that. But notwithstanding, the father and son exchange letters regularly. And the father reports, "Son," he said, "I know this is the time of the year where I need to till the soil in the garden. But I'm too old and I'm not feeling well to do it. I really wish you were here." And the son writes back and says, "Dad, I wish I were there too, but maybe it's just as well this year because that's where I buried the bodies." And so, you know how it is. I mean, the police, they read the letters, and so they sent out a squad out there to dig up the soil in the garden to find the bodies, and of course, there aren't any bodies there. So the father writes back and said, they all came out here, and they dug in the garden, they didn't find any bodies. And the son said in response, "Well, I knew that, Dad, but sending the cop to dig up the garden was the best thing I could do under the circumstances."
That's how he tilled the soil. Got it.
Good.
How are you today, Bruce?
Well, I'm pretty good, Zach. It was really nice to have Stan talk about the Passover
Last week, when we had the Passover presentation, Jews for Jesus, that's right.
Stan was Jewish, and a lot of people have backgrounds. I'm not Jewish, but Scottish.
You're Scottish?
Yeah. You probably know a lot about Scots folks. They're thought to be short-tempered and dim-witted, which tells you a little bit about me and reminds me of a story.
It reminds you of a story?
It reminds me of a story.
Okay.
Yeah. The Scotsman went to the store and asked the clerk where the scotch was. And the clerk said, "Well, what are you, Scottish?" And because he was short-tempered, he got angry at that question and said, "Well, if I ask for English muffins, would you ask me if I'm English? If I ask for Polish sausages, would you ask me if I'm Polish? If I ask for tacos, would you ask me if I'm Mexican?" And the clerk said, Well, no, I guess not. I didn't mean to offend you. But the reason I asked is because you're here at Home Depot, which shows that he was dim-witted.
Thank you. All,
Yeah.
Charity, thank you for leading us in worship today and that music right now. I
Yeah.
just want to honor you and thank you so much for worship. Please, let's do that. Absolutely. Yay. And the team.
All right, we were going to have a graphic for my
I heard about this.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen. So you guys have to use your imagination.
Our board, as you know, went out today. Not ready for that. It happens sometimes. But don't worry. We know it's going to be repaired. The Lord can do that.
And a few dollars with an electrician. All right, so here's the story. It's springtime and baseball time, right? And remember, Zach, we would go as a church to the Dodger baseball game
We
in
do
August.
once a year, right?
Annually, they have, on Fridays, they have fireworks and hot dogs
Yes.
and Cokes, and we like to do that.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about a team that did that last year, the Modesto Nuts Little League team. Now, we were going to show you the graphic. There really is a team in Modesto called the Modesto Nuts. And this is their minor league baseball team. They have cheerleaders, a walnut, and an almond.
So is the cheerleaders are a walnut and an almond?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're in costume, but, you know. Anyway, I wanted to tell you about the T-ball team that the coach brought down to watch the Dodgers game on that Friday night. All right?
I'm not sure where this is going, Bruce.
Yeah, well, it may not be funny, but it's going to be long, all right? So anyway, the coach comes down, but of course he has to prepare the kids beforehand to tell them what to do at a baseball game. So when the national anthem is played, the coach says, "Rise, Nuts," and they sing the national anthem. And then when Andre Ethier hits a home run, he says, "Cheer, Nuts," and the kids stand up and cheer, yay, it's good. And there was a bad call at first base, and he taught the kids, boo the umpire, boo Nuts, up Nuts, boo Nuts. All right, so anyway, he goes at the end of the fourth inning to get the hot dogs and the Coke for the kids, and comes back, and the kids are just in huge disarray. Everything seems to be going wrong, and he asks the assistant, "What's happened?" And the assistant says, "Well, the vendor, the food vendor came by." And the coach said, "Well, what was the problem?" "Well, the guy yelled out, 'Peanuts.'" He lost control. Oh, Zach. Oh, how good of you to join us. Great.
Bruce, we have a very loving congregation here.
Yeah.
They love to be together and share life and talk about things, and it makes it so much fun.
Well, it reminds me of two guys who were toward the end of their life. And they've been playing basketball against one another since they were young kids. One was a point guard, kind of a feisty guy, someone might say a cheap shot guy, and the other was a forward. Well, they played against one another, and they really didn't like one another, but they agreed, since they were now old, that the first one who would die would report whether or not they played basketball in heaven.
Would report?
Report, yeah.
How so?
Well,
I'll let you go, I'm sorry.
In a vision, and
Right.
I'm going to get to the
Okay,
fact that
sure.
the nice fellow, the forward, died first.
Okay.
And just after his death, in a vision to the feisty point guard, he was seen, and he said the forward who had passed away, "Yes, indeed, they do play basketball in heaven."
Okay.
And the feisty point guard said, "That's really great. I'm really glad to hear that." And the forward said, "Well, not so quick. We play against the team from hell, and you're their point guard, and we're playing tomorrow."
Poor guy who was the point guard.
Point guard from the team from hell. Yeah, that's what it is.
We don't want to go to hell, anybody. Please make sure we don't go there. If you're not sure if you're going there, please talk to me. Good. You all are so amazing. I love how you just can't get enough of seeing each other and sharing the joy of life together. And speaking of the joy of life, we have Bruce this morning with us.
Well, I wanted to talk about the question that was being asked by a little girl, a mother, because it's Mother's Day, right? It's a good question to ask.
It's a good question to ask.
So, the mom had brunette hair, and her daughter noticed that she was getting some gray in her hair.
Sure.
And the daughter said, Mom, why do you have that gray in your hair? She said, well, dear, every time you do something wrong, I get a gray hair.
Oh, no.
So the daughter went over and talked to grandmother and said, was my mother a really, really bad girl when she was young? And the grandmother asked, well, why do you ask? She said, because you have all gray hair. That's the answer.
Thank you, Lord, that we can. Thank you, Lord, that we can bring to you our tithes and our offering.
Wow, it was hard to find the microphone today. I should probably bring the offering plate too, right? Okay, Zach, I'll tell you what, I got really disoriented because of Mother's Day.
You did, Bruce?
Yeah.
Mother's Day threw you off?
Well, I wanted to tell you a story about Mother's Day, about a gentleman I know who was retired, and he and his wife were sitting on the porch of their house. And they were talking about their life together. And, they said, we had so many wonderful things, and you had your work, and I had the children. But the wife said, I really miss the kids, that they live so far away. And the fellow who was retired, the husband said, yup. And then stood up and walked off the porch, went into the den, and called up his daughter, who lives in Seattle, and said, I've had it with your mother. After 43 years of miserable life with her, I'm going to divorce her. But the daughter said, oh my gosh, you can't possibly do that. He said, well, I've made up my mind, but you can talk to your brother about it. She said, well, I'm going to do that. So a few minutes later, the brother calls from Phoenix, where he lived, and said, Dad, I heard you're getting divorced. I don't want you to do anything until we get there. Sis and I will be there tomorrow. The gentleman hung up the phone, went out to the porch, and said, well, dear, we're going to have this as a surprise, but because it's Mother's Day, your kids are going to want to come and be with us. So that's the nice story of how that all happened.
It's a little deceitful, but otherwise.
It works, Zach. That's the thing. It works.
Hello, Bruce.
Zach, on a serious note, if I can, just the thing that we saw about Memorial Day.
Yes.
I grew up in a time, I was born in the year that World War II ended. And within 3 years, after fighting Nazis, we were fighting the communists in Korea. And everyone I knew, every family I knew, was affected in some way by those two wars.
Yeah.
And therefore, we would talk about war experiences. And I had a chance to do that when I was in elementary school, when the teacher asked about that. Do you have any relatives who've been in the military? And I said, yeah. My Uncle Dale was a pilot and was shot down in the Korean War. And the classroom, oh gosh, tell us about that. Well, he told me this is what he did. He said, I grabbed the bottle of whiskey and the machine gun and the bayonet and jumped out of the plane before it touched the ground. He said, on the way down, I drank the whiskey. When I arrived on the ground, there were 100 communists there, and I shot 70 of them with my machine gun, and I killed 20 of them with a bayonet, and the rest of them I strangled with my hands. Oh, everyone had their eyes wide open, and imagine that. Well, said the teacher, what did you learn from that? I said, don't mess with Uncle Dale when he's been drinking.
You mean our drum,
Nice. It's summertime, Zach.
Yes, Bruce, it's summertime.
And it reminded me of my Uncle Clarence, who was a dairy farmer in western Pennsylvania. And my grandfather died in 1945, and at age 16, he took over the farm that had been farmed by my grandfather, and there were 3 young ones, including my mom, and he was a really hard-working guy. And he decided that they wanted to have a vegetable garden. Now, do you know the word bottomland? Bottomland?
Bottomland?
Yeah, it's land that it's fertile, but it's near the river and has lots of rocks and shrubs and stuff like that. I mean, it's really rugged land, but if you can clear the land, it's great for a vegetable garden. So my uncle decided that's what he was going to do. And so cleared the brush and hauled away the stones. I mean, it was a lot of work, and it took him nearly the whole year. And the next year, he planted the vegetable garden, and he was really proud of it. So he invited the pastor of his Presbyterian church to come over and take a look at his garden. And the pastor was really impressed. He said, "I've never seen corn so beautiful." He said, "And the tomatoes, they look so fantastic. And I see the lemons." He said, This really must be God's work." My uncle said, "Well, if it is God's land, that's good, Pastor. But I can tell you he never would have been able to do it without my help."
Bruce brings up a good point. Bruce brings up a great point for today's offering. God is looking. Yes, Bruce, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, we have a new office manager now, and my secretary comes in at supposed to be there at 10 o'clock every day.
Yes.
And the office manager came to me after about a week or so and said, "Your secretary is not coming in on time. She's coming in at 10:15, and it's your responsibility to get her here on time. Better talk with her." So I did that. I said, "Renee," I said, your start time is 10 o'clock. And she said, "Yeah, I know that, Bruce, but, I'm entitled to a coffee break every day, 15-minute coffee break, and I just decided to take my coffee break before I come to work."
Interesting.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know if that works so well for me.
Well, that's what I was hoping for guidance here, Zach, that's all. All right.
That's good. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we got your mic, Bruce.
Yeah.
You look good, Mike. Thank you. Now, we do life together in our church, and knowing that USC football is very important to Bruce, I wanted to make sure to ask him about the first home game last night. Bruce, did you enjoy the first home game, Bruce?
Was there a first home game? As far as I could tell, there wasn't from the USC side a first game. I was thinking maybe they thought kickoff Sunday was next Sunday and it started at 10 a.m. on Sunday. I think that's maybe what happened. But it was a disaster. A disaster. But, Zach, we have to look at it in context. This is Labor Day weekend. The last weekend was Labor Day weekend, and we really need to think just a little more about Labor Day since we clearly can't think about football. And, last week we talked a little bit about the fig leaf. Well, I've been thinking about, do you know why it is that they have all those mattress sales on Labor Day weekend?
Bruce, I don't know why. Why do they have mattress sales on Labor Day weekend?
Well, because from our labor and from our mattresses, we want good, firm support.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good, firm support mattress. Yeah. Jobs we want. All right, so that didn't go over so well.
Let's receive our offering for this morning, Bruce.
Let's not talk about football, that's for sure. So, Zach, that song, Charity?
She's right back here now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's over there.
Mountains high, valleys low,
Yes.
reminded me of the Sound of Music. It did. And I brought you a souvenir.
You did?
Yeah.
You brought me a souvenir from last night's Sound of Music
Sound
sing-along.
of Music. I wonder if you just turn your back a little bit. Thank you very much.
Are you going to like this? Tell me when you're ready.
It was supposed to go pop. Oh, what a disappointment. Well, anyway, this.
No.
What? Oh, Edelweiss. I brought some Edelweiss as well. Look at that. Isn't that great? Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, my,
pop shot on me?
apparently my pop
The Lord
shot
smited
doesn't
that
work. Yeah,
attack.
apparently, yeah. Yeah.
all
Well,
right.
it would have been funny if it happened.
I don't think I was going to let you get with that, Bruce.
No.
I think he was going to
Well,
say
listen,
no to
I
that.
wanted to say something else too, Zach. Is that okay?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I
okay,
want to say anything
yeah.
else more or not.
Well, I was just thinking about the people talking about going to the thing on Thursday. The food thing
yes,
at Hope of the Valley.
the outreach at Hope of the Valley.
And the generosity over there at Pavilions. I was reminded of a barber in Washington, D.C., who had decided to dedicate his week to community service. And a florist came in, and guy did his hair, and wanted to pay. He said, no. He said, I'm dedicating this week to community service. The haircut is free. Later that day, a bakery guy came in, and he gave him the haircut, and he said, oh no, it's free. And the next morning, there was a dozen roses and a dozen donuts at the door. So the following day, a senator came in, and he gave the guy a haircut. Senator was going to pay. He said, no. He said, it's free. So the next day, there were 12 senators at the door looking for a free haircut. Which is, I guess, the difference between the good citizens of this country and the politicians who run it.
You organized for us?
11-0. Dodgers! Woo!
Very excited about that.
That's enough, isn't it?
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. We're here again.
So, Zach, I was thinking, as I always do about your sermon. And I was,
I'm glad for you,
yeah,
by the way.
I was reminded of a fellow I know who was really a money-grubbing guy. And you remember last week you talked about, that voice, sitting on the shoulder and that kind of thing. Well, he had that experience, I think, tempted by the devil. So what happened to him was he heard a voice that said, take all of your money out of the bank. So that's what he did. He took all of his money out of the bank, and the voice said, go to Las Vegas. So he traveled to Las Vegas, 6-hour trip. And the voice said, go to the Caesar's Palace Hotel. And that's what he did. And then, go to the 3rd floor. And on the 3rd floor, there's this really fancy, exclusive place for, high roller gamblers. And the voice said, play roulette. So he went to the roulette table, looked around, hoping for a clue. And the voice said, red 13. So he put all of his money on red 13. Ball went into the roulette wheel, went around and around and around and around, stopped. Red 31. The guy said, what's this? He said, oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm dyslexic. The devil's dyslexic.
We love the voice of God, and we can laugh about jokes about the devil being dyslexic with Bruce. But remember, when you hear the voice of God, it's never wrong. The voice of God is always right, as Bruce's joke reminds us when it comes to the difference between a voice not of God and the voice of God. Remember, the voice of God is always right, and is always trustworthy, and is always true. And if it's a voice not of God, leading towards stealing, killing, and destroying, or selfishness, that voice we don't listen to. Right, Bruce?
That's what I took from that.
That's good. Thank you very much, Bruce. Well, we welcome Bruce back. He was suffering away in Rome the last couple of weeks.
but not so much as what I experienced this
This weekend, Bruce?
weekend. USC and Notre Dame. But, the Dodgers lost, and UCLA lost, and USC was beaten by Notre Dame. It reminded me of the story USC was made about the car accident that happened between the Presbyterian minister and the Catholic priest. And it was hard to determine who was at fault. There was this big car accident, and the priest got out of the car, and the Presbyterian minister got out of the car, and they said, "Do you understand what happened?" "No, we don't understand it." The priest said, "Well, the good news is that I have a bottle of wine and we're okay." And the Presbyterian minister said, "What good news is that? I have a chalice. And we can share a little bit of joy together." So the priest said, "Let me pour you wine." And so he poured him the chalice, and the priest said, "Please, take your first." And he said, "Well, let me pray first. Let me pray that we both find." And the Presbyterian minister took the drink, and then he handed the chalice to the Catholic priest. And it's now the Catholic priest. And the question was, what was the priest going to say? "God, please make the police arrive quickly so that they can report the Presbyterian minister."
Just so you all know, I don't proof Bruce's stories before he comes up. Maybe we should institute a new plan, Bruce. That's good. We're going to receive our offering for the morning.
Oh, Zach.
Hi, Bruce. How are you this morning?
I'm really okay, but, this Halloween time raises a lot of questions. For me, anyway.
What kind of questions does it raise for you, Bruce?
Well, you know why ghosts like to ride elevators?
No, Bruce. I don't know why
Ghosts like to
ride
raise elevators. Yeah, it raises their spirits. Zach, do you know what the favorite fruit is of a vampire?
I don't know, Bruce.
Nectarines. I had another question, Zach. Do you know why the baby ghost couldn't see his mother?
Why the baby ghost couldn't see his mother?
She was a transparent. Okay, all right. And I did have another question to ask you. I had a couple questions to ask you. The question I really wanted to ask you was about what do you call a vampire who lives in the kitchen? Count Spatula.
We're going to take our offering now.
Yeah, let's take our offering now. Zach, you didn't get any of those right. It's a great thing to be here in Sherman Oaks today. We had a new birth at my apartment building this week. We're really happy. Miles has just joined us.
In the apartment building?
Well, it was actually at a hospital, but, Miles has come back home after the hospital.
Good.
And the dad is a really busy guy. He's a teacher, and this is, a heavy time for him. He's a big UCLA fan, so he needed to worry about that. And I said to him last night, I said, now don't forget about daylight savings time. Be sure to move the clocks back. So this morning I saw him and I said, did you do that? He said, I did. He said, but I had a heck of a time finding the clock on that kid. Baby cried. Anyway, yeah, apparently they don't have them. You got more experience with that than I do, but is that right? Yeah. Yeah, a baby is very cute, isn't it? Yeah, but no
clock.
No clock.
5:43 for right. The kids didn't quite get the message. Right?
No, daily seems to may not be a natural thing for kids.
I think you're right, Bruce.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Lord God,
You're the one who's here today because
Thank you.
I had a question that I thought a woman might sort of understand.
How can I help you?
Well, I have a friend by the name of Elizabeth, and she has been dating a guy for a year and a half. She's 30 years old, and they just broke up. And this is tough, she really loved him and all that other stuff. And so she started talking to me about it, and I said, oh, come on, Elizabeth, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're capable of earning money, you're just a great, great woman. Don't worry about it. There'll be another guy. And she said, well, Bruce, she said, it's not that easy. Well, it's sort of like going to the pumpkin patch on the 31st of October. By the time you get there, all of the good ones are gone. And the ones that are left seem to have had their brains taken out with a spoon. Apparently that's a problem.
She must not be a Christian.
I'll work on it.
Thank you, Bruce.
about it with each other to celebrate the highs and the lows and to walk together. And Bruce, as I can see from his prop that he has in the front row here, is excited about a high in terms of, now this is not so much spiritual as it is Bruce just being excited about USC upsetting Stanford yesterday.
You may have heard about that. I'm completely biased about this, just want you to know, Okay. But it reminded me, Zach, I don't know if you know about this, but the forces of heaven and the forces of hell actually did play a football game. Yeah. And I'm not sure either, but we'll find out. Let's stick around and see what happens. You know how they do, they talk to the coaches and all, and the coach from the group from hell was really positive about going to be beating the forces of heaven. He was really positive about that. And the sideline reporter said, how is it you can be possibly so positive about beating the forces of heaven? They looked really formidable. And the guy from hell said, I'm not really worried. He said, all the officials come from where we are. Yeah.
It's a commentary on the officials.
Yeah.
Bruce.
Yeah. Well, I think it's true, Zach. I watched that game. I think that's where they come from.
Hello, Bruce. How are you? How was your Thanksgiving, Bruce?
Yeah, well, I went to the football game yesterday. It was not my team that won.
Wow, there's a lot of reaction to your football team not winning, Bruce.
But I wanted to give you some good news, Zach.
Bruce, I would like to hear some good news.
Yeah, the Chargers haven't been doing that well this year either.
I'm aware of that. Thank you, Bruce. Yes, I'm aware of that.
They had a new player audition for them on Tuesday. It was a turkey.
Going to Turkey.
Yeah, and he arrived at the workout and wanted an audition. And they said, well, what position do you play? You're a turkey. He said, well, actually, I'm a wide receiver. So, they practiced, and he was an amazing catcher. He just was fantastic, better than anyone else they had on their team. Uh-huh. What else can you do? He said, I'm actually a good running back. And so they handed the turkey the ball, and he ran through it. He was really, really great. Uh-huh. And the coach was so impressed. They said, we want to give you a signing bonus. We'd like you to join the team. Okay. He said, well, I really don't need a signing bonus. I just need a contract through Thanksgiving to Christmas, and I'll be okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
All right. Keeping you on your toes around this place, everybody. Go Chargers, right. Thanks. Hello, Bruce.
A lot of things going on this time of the year. The mall is particularly busy.
Chris, do you get him prepped for these things? Yes, Bruce, the mall is busy, yes.
So there was this woman by the name of Heather who was shopping at the mall, and she got the gifts that she intended to put them in the back of her car and pulled out of the mall and turned right. And on the corner was a woman, an older woman, waiting at the bus stop. And in the spirit of the season, she thought, I'm going that way. I should pick this woman and give her a ride. It was cold
Yeah.
on Saturday and wet. And so she invited her into the car, and Florence and she traveled west.
Good.
So they began talking, as women sometimes do. And
How come all the men laughed at that part
yeah, I
of the
don't know.
joke, Bruce?
So Florence said, wow, what is it that you have in the back of your car? She said, well, I got a 60-inch flat screen for my husband. Well, Florence thought for a moment. She said, that seems like a very fair trade. Now, my husband's a little older. Do you think I could get a 52-inch for him?
Did you guys get that one? She exchanged her husband for the flat screen. That's good. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you got it, Zach. That's good. Yeah, all right, good.
You're not going to encourage him? Lord God, thank you. Thank you.